Welcome back. Concerns are growing across the board. According to a new Yahoo YouGov poll, 68% of voters say that Joe Biden is too old to run for president in 2024. He'd be pushing 87 if he completed a second term, including, get this, 71% of independent voters. That is a huge number. For more on this, let's welcome back in former Pennsylvania Senator, presidential candidate, and senior Newsmax political analyst Rick Santorum. Senator, good to see you again. Good morning.
Great to be with you again, Rob. Thanks.
These numbers are much bigger than we saw with Reagan running for a second term in 1984. Do these do anything to stop Joe Biden from running again in 2024?
Not unless there's a viable alternative, and there isn't a viable alternative. I mean, the story behind Joe Biden is how weak the bench is, and how radical the bench is. I mean, if you look at anybody that's got any kind of large following among the left, the Democratic Party these days, it is the hardcore AOC progressive group. It's not reasonable governors. I mean, you have governors in states that are, reasonable Democrats who have to govern under, in a legislature, in many cases controlled by Republicans. You don't see them come forward because they can't get by the hard left of a Democratic Party in a primary. So all you have are these Bernie Sanders acolytes and squad acolytes who are left as an alternative to Biden.
So what do you think the Democrats ultimately do if Joe Biden does decide to run again? The New York Times had an article on Monday. I think I've talked about it every day this week because I found it so fascinating, saying, hey, why not throw the decision out to delegates at the convention, the Democratic convention, when it comes to Kamala Harris? Pick a different candidate.
Well, because you're talking about the president of the United States. I mean, the president of the United States is the leader of the party, is someone who has a lot of control over the process, as you've seen there. There's switched the Democratic primary around, so states that are very favorable to him are up first, and states that are problematic for him have been either shelved or put to the back of the line. They're controlling the process, and so they're not going to give up that control. He's the president. He wants to run again.
Yeah.
He doesn't see any viable opposition. There's no one forming against him, and he's not going to. Joe Biden waited 50 years to get this job. He's always wanted this job. He's not going to give it up.
Senator, let's talk about the Republicans. Three candidates all at CPAC right now, three announced candidates. I think that a couple candidates are running shadow campaigns right now in lieu of maybe a spring, early summer announcement. Nikki Haley is touting her experience. Let's listen.
How are you going to differentiate from President Trump, Ron DeSantis, Mike Pompeo, all of the people running, Mike Pence? What's different?
Well, none of them have the experience that I have in terms of what I've led and how I've done it in terms of state experience and foreign policy. But more than that, I've been to Iowa and I've been to New Hampshire. And what I saw is people want options. They don't want just Biden and Trump. And you're talking about a bunch of people who haven't even put their pants on to get in the race yet. I'm talking about the people who are in the race.
All right. So, Senator, she's got a huge head start. She's got a great resume. Do you expect her campaign, she's at about 7-8%, depending on what poll you look at, which is a lot better than like Deval Patrick or Michael Bloomberg at this same time in their respective races. Do you expect her campaign to start picking up momentum?
I think she probably starts out because I think she is an attractive candidate. She was a governor. She mentioned she has foreign policy experience. She's very articulate. Has a little, has some charisma, and she's out there working it. And she was smart to get out early. I think she's doing a good job. We'll wait and see. One of the things as someone who's run a couple of times for president, you have folks who have peaks and valleys. I mean,
right.
Particularly at this point when people get in the race and there's nobody else really in the race, you can get a lot more support than when the crowd gets a little bit more, when the field gets a little bit more crowded, those numbers tend to bounce around a little bit.
Yeah, great point. Senator, Gisele Fetterman, the Washington Post, writing about this. She's been getting a lot of attention. The Washington Post calling Gisele Fetterman, John Fetterman's wife, the right wing's favorite supervillain. John Fetterman, we wish him the very best in his recovery. He's still being treated right now at Walter Reed Medical Center. What do you make of this speculation that Josh Shapiro, the new Pennsylvania governor, you served in the Senate from Pennsylvania for more than a decade. What do you make of this speculation that she could be appointed to take over for her husband until a special election?
It's possible. She has a record that is even more radical than John Fetterman, and Fetterman has a good blue-collar quality about him, sort of an everyman quality about him. I don't think she really matches that every person quality that Fetterman has, but again, look at the bench. There isn't a great bench. I mean, other than, Josh Shapiro is certainly an up-and-comer, but if you look at the rest of the Democratic Party, there isn't really much of a bench. Again, same reason. Radical progressive control the party in Pennsylvania too, and so they don't have very attractive candidates. So I'm not sure John Fetterman's going anywhere, to be honest with you. I think he's probably going to be there for quite some time. This is going to have to be more of a chronic issue than an acute one that we're seeing here. But I wouldn't expect anything this year unless his health changes for the worse.
Senator, great to see you. Have a good weekend. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
Former Senator Rick Santorum joining us this morning.